Broadcasting live from the Meridics via OBS Studio Broadcast Center at Fordyce Center in Bellevue. This is G-Nash Hockey on the Middle Tennessee Sports Network. Overture, curtain lights. This is it. The night of nights. Tonight is championship night in G-Nash. The Henry Hine Cup and Predators Cup finals. Trophies on the line for one team, for the other, forcing a second game for the trophy. Mount Juliet-Wilson, Central-Lebanon taking on Independence-Centennial in the Hine Cup final. Trophies on the line for Indy. Mount Juliet got a win to force a Wednesday final, a second final on Wednesday, I should say. And then in the Predators Cup final, it is the 2-seed Montgomery Bell taking on the home team, the 7-seed Nolensville. Home team because they came out of the winner's bracket. Nolensville win tonight. It's a third straight Preds Cup for those kids who played in the Ensworth-Nolensville-Lipscomb co-op those last 2 years. If NBA win, then it's a Wednesday final where both sides can win the trophy. Zamboni out on the ice right now. We've had the PA system being tested, so we're obviously going to do lineups and national anthem before this game. So it's a big night, the biggest night on the calendar in all of G-Nash. The night that trophies are up for grabs. Do what we always do, which is going over the finals from last week. When we came into last week, 9 teams were still playing G-Nash hockey this season. Now it's just 4. Last Monday, in the Predators Cup Winners Bracket Final, it was Nolensville defeating Franklin 2-1, while Indy beat Father Ryan 3-2 in the Hine Cup Winners Bracket Final. In the Predators Cup Losers Bracket Semifinal, it was Montgomery Bell defeating Page Summit 4-1. And in the Henry Hine Cup Losers Bracket Quarterfinal, the second Henry Hine Cup Losers Bracket Quarterfinal, it was JP2 MLK GCS beating Brentwood BAUSN 2-1. Last Wednesday, in the Henry Hine Cup Losers Bracket Semifinal, it was Mount Juliet beating JP2 4-1. And in the Preds Cup Losers Bracket Final, it was MBA beating Franklin 5-0. And then on Thursday, it was Mount Juliet-Wilson Central-Lebanon defeating Father Ryan 4-2 in the Henry Hine Cup Losers Bracket Final. So tonight, here on the Terry Crisp Ring in Bellevue, it will be the finals, the tournament finals. First up at 6 o'clock, the Hine Cup final between Mount Juliet and Indy. Again, Mount Juliet, if they win, be playing a, if necessary, game on Wednesday at 5:30 out at Rink A at Centennial. But if Indy win, the trophy is theirs. And then, well, it says 8:15, but it could be earlier than that, depending upon how long the Hine Cup game takes. MBA and Nolensville in the Preds Cup final. Again, these are championship games, so after the second period in both games, the teams will return to the dressing rooms, and they'll break out the Zamboni to resurface the ice for the third period. So a wrinkle that is not seen in any other G-Nash game at any point during the season. As the Zamboni keeps on rolling. If just one of these games, if just one of these trophies is won tonight, we are expecting the All-Star game to take place on Wednesday after whichever, if necessary, game at 7:45 on Rink A at Centennial. We still not have seen All-Star teams yet. I'm not exactly sure how that would work out for players who don't know if they've been picked yet to be an All-Star. I've checked the schedules for the NYHL and the Junior Preds, and all the male players seems to be no conflicts, but for any female players who could potentially be selected, like Reese McKenzie out of Ravenwood, all the Junior Preds girls teams are playing, I think, in Indian Trail, North Carolina this week. Weekend, so it could be an issue, but maybe not. Again, we'll see. I've actually set up a table on the mezzanine, and I've actually got my chair turned around. I've got my laptop facing the ice because these games, a lot of people show up, a lot more people than usual show up for these games, and if I stand behind the table, I'm going to lose sight. But if I stand in front of the table and call the game, I'll have a little bit better line of sight. Zamboni's got one more strip of ice to go over after this one. G-Nash Commissioner Kevin Bond in the house, no surprise there. Going over to the scorekeeper box. I think it's Danny Corns occupying the scorekeeper box tonight. Once both teams and the officials hit the ice, we'll talk about the two teams individually. And what they have done so far in this postseason is the Zamboni has completely gone over the ice, and now he's just got to get turned around in a good spot where he can take it off. Looks like most of the Indy coaching staff is already behind that bench. I don't see Mark. I did see Mark Lane down here in this little area between stands where the players come out. So he's here. As the Zamboni heads off the ice, and then just got to have a little bit of snow scraped off, and then the doors can be closed, and then we can get the teams out here and get this thing going. Rich Mellon, the vice president of G-Nash, also in the scorekeeper box. I'm sure Kevin Hagan, the president, is here. I think this might be the end of Kevin's term. I think Rich takes over next season, as has been the case for the last few years or so. Here come the officials. Wow, officials got out here just 40 seconds to 6 o'clock. So they're not messing about. It's a lot better than what happened Thursday night. If you weren't with us Thursday night, the officials mistakenly went to Centennial and then had to get back in their cars and drive down to Antioch and held up that game for about 30 minutes. And then the second period itself took over half an hour because there was penalty after penalty after penalty. So that wasn't the only reason that it took forever on Thursday, but at least they're here, and we don't have to worry about them having to travel from elsewhere. That means they'll be set for both games. As the lights are being turned down, we got the little blue light effect over the ice. So the nets have already been put in place, and here come the teams onto the ice. Indy-Centennial out first. few stragglers. One of them, Hank Walker, who's emerged as the big young gun for this Indy team. And the Mount Juliet players are coming out through the Zamboni doors, so the Indy Centennial players into the ice from the little area between the bleachers. And Mount Juliet coming onto the ice from the Zamboni doors. And once everybody's out on the ice, I'm sure they'll close the doors and start running. We got a couple more. Alex Walker, the head coach, making his way around the boards to the bench. And Zamboni door is still open over there in that corner. So I don't think Danny will start the warm-up clock until everybody's out on the ice. And they actually turn the lights back up. Now the warm-up clock is going, so let's talk about the two teams playing in this Henry Hine Cup final. First up, Mount Juliet-Wilson, Central-Lebanon. In the regular season, they went 4-11. 4 wins, 11 losses. So far in this Hine Cup, they opened the Hine Cup with a 6-5 loss to JP Tillamook GCS on February 9th. The very next night, won the first elimination game of the tournament, 8-4 over the Rutherford Rampage. February 18th, they beat the Tennessee Outlaws 5-4 in the losers bracket quarterfinals. Last Wednesday, they beat JP2 4-1, got revenge on JP2, beat them 4-1 in the losers bracket semifinal, and then back on Thursday, beat Father Ryan 4-2 in the losers bracket final. So here are their stats coming into tonight. Cade Ellenberg, the leading scorer. They say he's got 18 points. He's actually got 17 from 10 goals and 7 assists. Jordan Antar, 16 points from 7 goals and 9 assists. Ethan Smith, 7 points from 3 goals and 4 assists. Anthony Giampalo and Reed Spencer each with 4 points from 2 goals and 2 assists. Carter Spencer, 2 points from a goal and an assist. Trenton Gurrell and Parker Triplett. Actually, Parker Triplett has 3 points all from assists. Trenton Gurrell, 2 points from assists. Sheree Aurora, a point from a goal, and Jackson Blevins and Dallas Riddell each have a point from an assist. On to goalie plays. Shepard Dulcie has played in all 5 games. He started them all, so his record is 4-1-0. He's played 210 minutes. Goals against average of 3.40. No shutouts. He's allowed 17 goals on 117 shots, turned away the other 100. His save percentage in the postseason so far is .855. Let's move on to Independence-Centennial, coached by Mark Lane. Opened the Hine Cup with a 9-2 win over Clarksville Kings on February 9th. February 17th, they beat the Tennessee Outlaws 4-2 in the winners bracket semifinals. Then last Monday, they defeated Father Ryan 3-2 in the winners bracket final. So here are their stats coming into tonight. Hank Walker has 7 points from 4 goals and 3 assists. Aiden Garner, 6 points from 4 goals and 2 assists. Nick Kloss, 5 points from 4 goals and an assist. Tate Butcher and Caleb Mills each have 2 points from a goal and an assist. Cash Brandon and Lucas Brown each with 2 points from assists. Avery Azamini and Oscar Dubon each with a point from a goal. Carson Denning, Nick Anusadis, Bryson Patton, and Easton Romano all have a point from an assist. Owen Brott tonight serving the 5th of his 11-game suspension for his actions in the regular season game against the Outlaws back on January 12th. So if Indy win tonight, he'll have to serve 6 more games at the start of next season. On to goalie play. David Busby has played in all 3 games, started all 3 of them, so his record is 3-0. He's played the full 126 minutes, goals against average of 2 even, no shutouts. He's allowed 6 goals and 77 shots, turned away the other 71. His save percentage in the postseason so far is .922. These teams met back in November 3rd in the regular season. Mount Juliet won 3-2. However, the Bears faced Clive Neal in goal that night, not David Busby, and they did not have Cade Ellenberg on the roster. So those are 2 new wrinkles added to tonight's game that were not present back in November. As the warm-up is done, and now we will just wait on the pregame intros. It's Kevin Hagan, the league president, in the box doing PA.
The Independence-Centennial takes on Mount Juliet-Wilson, Central-Lebanon. And the starting lineup for Mount Juliet-Wilson, Central-Lebanon.
Mount Juliet being introduced first as the away team. Ethan Smith will line up on the front, along with Kate Ellenberg and Jordan Antar. Mount Juliet have scored 26 goals in their 5 Hine Cup games. Antar and Ellenberg have combined for 17 of them. Jackson Blevins lining up on defense alongside Dallas Riddell. And Shepard Hulsey going to start in goal for the Bears. And now the Indy Centennial lineup. Aiden Gardner. Line up as a forward. Bryson Patton. Nick Kloss will complete the forward lines. Kind of surprised they're not putting Hank Walker out there considering how dangerous he is. Cash Brannion going to line up on defense. Oscar Dubon lining up on defense alongside Cash Brannion, and no surprise in net. David Busby. If Independence-Centennial win tonight, it will be the third Henry Hine Cup title for Independence itself. They've won 2 previous Hine Cup titles, also in co-ops in 2017 with Summit and 2021 with Spring Hill. That would tie them with Franklin for most Hine Cup titles all time. Franklin have 3. They won the inaugural tournament in 2008 as a Scholastic team, won their second in 2018 in a co-op with Hume Fogg, won their third in a co-op with Hume Fogg and BGA in 2020. It will be the second Hine Cup title for Centennial, who won the Hine Cup 3 years ago in 2023 as a Scholastic team. So here we go. Shepard Hulsey going to start in goal for Mount Juliet. David Busby going to start in goal for Indy for this first period. Indy will carry the puck from my left to right. Mount Juliet from my right to left. The Hine Cup final. Trophies on the line for Indy. For Mount Juliet, a second chance. Time for talk is over and the game is underway. Puck in the Mount Juliet zone off the draw, picked up by Ethan Smith. He'll clear it out at the far side. Jordan Antar into the Indy zone on the right wing. Taking a shot from the right point. Gloved and held onto by David Busby. So we have a quick first whistle just 12 seconds in. Draw will be to Busby's left. Puck of the end boards, picked up by Cash Brannion. Passing ahead to Aiden Gardner. Gardner will send it through the near side and icing. He was trying to get an outlet pass for Nick Kloss, but never went anywhere near Kloss. So they'll drop it inside the Indy zone again, this time to Busby's right. You have to wonder, is it an advantage for Indy? They haven't played in a week. Mount Juliet playing back-to-back nights last week, and they just last played back on Thursday. Draw one by Indy. It's cleared by Brannion. Skipping into the Mount Juliet zone. It's on the far side. Dallas Riddell gets to it before it got to the goal line. I think icing would have been waved off anyway. Now Ethan Smith trying to chip it out. It went off a Centennial stick, off the stick of Dubon. Now at center, Kate Ellenberg past the red line, dumps it back into the Indy zone. Puck on the near boards. Kate Ellenberg with a hit on Gardner. Then he delivers a hit at the end boards to Dubon. Here's Brannion through center, right wing side of the Mount Juliet zone. Taking a shot in the bottom of the right circle, turned away by Hulsey. So Hulsey facing his first shot inside the first minute. Each goalie's made a save. Puck at center, Gardner dumps it back into the Mount Juliet zone. Indy will go change. Most of them. Brannion's still out there. Ellenberg at center, gets to the red line, dumps it into the Indy zone, and Mount Juliet will change. Puck in the right wing corner of the Indy zone. Brannion still on the ice, getting pushed down by Carter Spencer. Brannion with a puck now, passing it up the near side. Hank Walker, player to watch for Indy, drops it back to Brannion, who then sends it to center to Caleb Mills. Mills crossing the red line, lost the puck. And here is Carter Spencer crossing the red line, dumping it back into the Indy zone as Brannion went to the bench to complete the line change. Hank Walker into the Mount Juliet zone on the right wing side, trying to send the puck to the front of the net, but it was deflected with the stick of Anthony Giampalo, and it was cleared out, I think, by Carter Spencer. Oscar Dubon still on the ice. Oh, he passes the puck up the far side to Walker, then he runs into Tate Butcher and goes down. And Walker had the puck get away from him in the bottom of the right circle, and Anthony Giampalo decided to flick it on goal so that Hulsey could stop and cover. 11:54 to go in the first end, no goals on the board. Draw's going to be to the left of Hulsey. Draw one by Indy. Nick Kloss, right point, a shot off the right leg pad of Hulsey. Puck behind the net. Dallas Riddell trying to clear it out. Held in by Kloss. Moving down the right wing with a shot. Stopped by Hulsey, and the rebound cleared out of the zone. Tate Butcher will get to it at center. Butcher trying to clear it out of his own zone. It hits Ellenberg. Comes to the far side. Butcher again can't clear. Ellenberg knocked that down too. Tries to put it in front from his knees. Puck picked up in the right wing corner by Antar. Antar dropping it back to the inboards. Ellenberg put out in front of one-timer. Stopped by Busby. That was Antar. Puck taken off Walker at center, sent back into the Indy zone. Kloss putting a body on Ellenberg to keep him away from it. Cash Brannion will clear it out. And then it just went over the Mount Juliet blue line with Aiden Gardner going in ahead, and he touches it up for the offside. 11:04 to go in the first, and no goals on the board. Draws on the dot in front of the Mount Juliet bench. Won by Indy. Cash Braniel will dump it in. Puck coming around to the far side. Trying to clear it out. Held in. Oscar Dubon with a shot on the left point. Stopped by Halsey. Rebound in the crease. Whiffed on by Caleb Mills. Puck trickling to the near side boards, and it'll be cleared out by Winston Hudson. Now Carter Spencer will dump it back into the Indy zone. Dubon will get to it at the inboard. Send it around to the near side. Puck now in the left wing corner. Mills turns it over. Winston Hudson in the slot. A shot off the right leg pad of Busby. And the rebound will be carried to center by Cash Branyan. Branyan back in the Mount Juliet zone. On the right wing. Moves to the middle. Now out to the left wing. Sends it to the front of the net. Intercepted and cleared out by Anthony Giampaolo. In fact, iced by the Mount Juliet co-captain. 10-13 left in the first, and no goals on the board still in the Hine Cup final. Draw is going to be to the right of Halsey. So Indy with a little more offensive pressure in the early going than Mount Juliet. I might have just a bit more depth than the Bears. Bears win the draw. They got their big guns back out there. Ethan Smith at center. On the far side, jabbing it up ahead to Cade Ellenberg, who tried to hand it off to Jordan Antar. He fumbled a bit. Antar had to come out of the zone while Ellenberg brings the puck in, and he gets off a shot that's turned away by Busby. Puck down in the right wing corner. Antar falls over. Ellenberg on that far wall, battling away with Tate Butcher and George Logazar. Now Jackson Blevins out at the right point, back-ending it down the wall to Ellenberg. Ellenberg tried a shot that hit Bryson Patton. Now the puck behind the net. Kloss with it. Is it taken off his stick by Smith? Ellenberg. Antar, right circle, a shot. Went off his stick and missed the net well to the right of Busby. Smith trying to drop it down the left wing. Gives it away to Tate Butcher, who will clear. And it's coming on the Mount Juliet net, so Halsey has to cover because Hank Walker was coming down the slot shoulder to shoulder with Blevins. 9:14 left in the first. Still no goals on the board. So Mount Juliet's big guns not scaring Indy a lot at the moment. Draw to the left of Halsey. Won by Indy, and a shot from Caleb Mills just misses the net to Halsey's left. Puck out at center. Aiden Gardner with it, trying to turn back towards the Mount Juliet line, and it knocked off his stick by Hudson. Here's Cash Branyan. Now Mills, left wing side up, and either Oliver Weedman or Gardner went in ahead of Branyan to trigger the offside whistle. So they'll drop it on the dot in front of the Mount Juliet bench. Correction, that was not Weedman. That's Nick Onyesatis out there for Indy. Draw one by Mount Juliet. Sheree Aurora dumps it into the Indy zone behind the net. Busby trying to leave it. He has to send it around to the far boards to keep Winston Hudson away from the puck. And an attempt to send it to the front of the net was blocked and went out to center. And that was an attempt from Parker Triplett. Now here's Aiden Gardner, right wing side of the Mount Juliet zone. Tried to get around Anthony Giampaolo. Had to catch puck up to the puck, and then from near the right wing corner fires the puck across the front of the net. Held into the left point. Oscar Dubon shot. Blocked by the shins of Triplett, who forces it out to center. Tried to pass it across to Winston Hudson. Went off the near boards. It's in the Indy zone. Cash Branyan controlling. Pass across the far side into the skates of Hank Walker. Walker will drop it over to Branyan as Mount Juliet are bringing their top line back out. Stretch pass up the near side to Gardner. He'll deflect it into the Mount Juliet zone and go to the bench for a change. Puck in the right wing corner. Walker drops it back down. Here is Bryson Patton behind the net. Fell over, trying to bring it back out in front, so Jordan Antar will pick up the loose puck on the far side and backhand it ahead into the Indy zone. It's on goal. Busby will have to stop and cover because Cade Ellenberg was racing in. 7:43 to go in the first, and it's still zip in the Hine Cup final. Draw is going to be to the right of Busby. Correction, to his left. Draw one by Mount Juliet. Kate Ellenberg moving to the, trying to move to the slot, got him a shot that did not miss the net to the right of Busby by much. Here's Ellenberg now, passing down the left wing. Antar for the backhander off the right leg pad of Busby, and then Antar crashes into the net and knocks it loose. So it's just been this top line for Mount Juliet, who have been a headache for Indy-Centennial so far, but not much of one. Draw's going to be to Busby's right this time. One by Indy. Can Cash Brannion clear? Correction, it's Nick Kloss, and yes, he can clear, but it goes for an icing. Gave it too much. So they'll drop it to Busby's right again. Draw one by Mount Juliet. Pucks into the front of the net to the slot from Ellenberg, a one-timer. Oh, how did that miss with Busby out of position? I think it missed the net to his right. Here's Antar, bottom of the right circle, a shot. He whiffed on one attempt and got off a shot that Busby turned away with his chest, and Indy will clear it down ice for an icing. 7:03 to go in the first, no goals on the board. Mount Juliet's top line knocking on the door, but now they're going to make a change for this next faceoff, which will be to Busby's left. And Indy will change their line as well. One by the Eagles. Puck fired around the wall to the near side. Anthony Giampaolo reached out for it on the near side boards at center, so that's why icing was waved off as the puck went deep into the Mount Juliet zone. Giampaolo, right wing corner, banks it off the near boards and out. And this could go for an icing. Nope, it's been waved off. Oscar Dubon gets to it in the Indy zone, sends it around to the far boards. Tried to clear it out, held in at the right point by Trenton Gorell, but he can't keep the puck on his stick. It's cleared out by Oliver Weedman. Josh Boren crosses the red line and dumps it back into the Mount Juliet zone. Puck on the near side. And it's Cash Brannion couldn't keep it alive at the right point, so Dubon will chase it back down to the Indy zone, firing around the wall to the far side. Parker Triplett keeps it into the right point, sends it right back down to the end wall, comes around to the near side. Brannion actually going to go back behind his own net, behind and to the left. Now he'll step out to the right and bring it to center, pick up his pace a bit into the Mount Juliet zone on the right wing side. Brannion, a shot, score! Hossier drifted a bit too far to his left, and Brannion fires it into the bottom corner on the right-hand side of the net to give Indy-Centennial a 1-0 lead with 5:55 to go in the first. Hulsey hanging out just a bit too far to his left, and Brannion perfectly hit that bottom corner on the right-hand side. Cash Brannion played for JP2 in the 2022-23 season as a freshman, then went out of state for a couple years, came back for his senior year, and he makes a big impact. He hadn't really been lighting up the scoreboard this year, but he makes a big impact by scoring the first goal of this Hine Cup final. Now Kate Ellenberg in the Indy zone. Cannot get around Nick Kloss, who jabs the puck away from him. Cleared out. Aiden Gardner now, left wing side of the Mount Juliet zone, trying to tap it around Dallas Riddell, who did a great job of keeping the puck away from Gardner, who now strips it from him. At the end board, sends it up the far side. Sends it up the right wing side. Nick Kloss's shot on the right point is over the net. Puck cleared out on the far side by Mount Juliet. Here's Nick Kloss. from his own zone, carrying it back through center into the Mount Juliet zone. Tried to send it to the front of the net. It was blocked by the skates of Blevins. Now the puck put out in front, but it just went past the net to Hulsey's right because Caleb Mills couldn't get a stick on it in time. Spitzer Pachalko on the far side. Trying to pass it up to the left point, blocked by the skates of Smith. Now it's passed up to the left point. Klaus' shot. Turned away by Hulsey. Puck on the far side now. Here is Dantar, back to center. Back into the Indy zone, passing to the right wing, and Ellenberg. Cade Ellenberg, a shot from the top of the right circle, stopped the net onto by Busby. 4:41 to go in the first. 1-0 Independence-Centennial. Draw is going to be to Busby's left. Won by Mount Juliet. Trenton Gorell with a shot in the right point. Stopped by Busby, and he'll cover. No, he did not cover up the rebound. Parker Triplett bangs it in. The shot hit Busby, popped up off him, and he tried to put his left hand, his glove hand, across his right arm and cover it up, but he couldn't. He was hanging out at the left-hand post, left the net wide open, and Triplett able to bang in the rebound to make it 1-1 with 4:35 to go in the first. So 80 seconds after Indy scored the first goal, Mount Juliet tie it up. Draw one by Indy. Cash Brannion, left wing side of the Mount Juliet zone. Goes right to the net of the right-hand side. Shot stopped and covered up by Hulsey. Draw is going to be to Hulsey's right. One by Mount Juliet. Puck smacked around the boards to the near side. Triplett trying to clear it out. Take it away. Cash Brannion puts it in front. Bryce Patton's shot blocked. Puck to the end boards. Walker coughed it up. Sheree Aurora firing it up the far side. Trying to keep it in at the left point, but unsuccessfully was Oscar Dubon. Battle for the puck with Carter Spencer right in front of the Mount Juliet bench. Dubon will bring it back into the left wing side. Moves to the outside. Trying to pass the cross to Brannion. That was broken up by Gorell. And Mount Juliet clear. At center with it is Walker. Passes across to the near side. Brannion brings it back into the Mount Juliet zone. Trying to cross to the left wing side. Puck taken away and cleared out. It's back in the Indy zone. Tate Butcher will get to it. Both sides making changes. Butcher tried to pass it up the near side to Walker. It was deflected back into the Mount Juliet zone off the stick of Antar. Puck comes in front, and two shots were blocked for Carson Denning, the lone FRA player on this Indy Centennial team. Left over from the Centennial FRA co-op from last year. Now the puck carried to center by Mount Juliet, and trying to pass it up the far side to Ellenberg was Ethan Smith, but it missed him. Tate Butcher trying to clear, held in at the left wing point by Blevins, but went off his stick, allowed Aiden Gardner to take it out. Here's Smith. Oh, back into the Indy zone, but Ellenberg had gone in before him to trigger the offside whistle. 3:01 to go in the first. The game is tied at 1. Draw will be on the dot in front of the Indy bench. Won by Mount Juliet. Winston Hudson brings the puck into the Indy zone. Forced to the near side boards and knocked into him by Gardner. And the puck cleared down ice by Nick Kloss. Back in the Mount Juliet zone. Caught up to by Trenton Gorell. He fires it around the boards to the far side. Caleb Mills keeps it in at the left half wall, but then gives it away to Blevins. Blevins to center. Back into the Indy zone on the right wing. Leaves it in the right circle. Oh, and Sheree Aurora wanted to put it in front for Winston Hudson, but a great diving block on that pass attempt by Kloss. Aiden Gardner will carry it to center. Gardner back into the Mount Juliet zone on the left wing. Cannot get around Gorell. Took the puck off him, tried to clear. Mills held it in. Now the puck going back towards the right-hand side of the Mount Juliet net. Stopped and covered up by Hulsey. 2:17 left in the first. Still 1-1. Draw is going to be to Hulsey's right. One by Mount Juliet. Brought to center by Ethan Smith. Passing to the near side, Kate Ellenberg will shoot it. Oh, just missed the net to the left of Busby. He was shooting from behind the left point. Puck in the right wing corner now. Cash Branyan behind the net. Flipping it up the far side to center. Off the skate of Gorell, and it goes back into the Indy zone, but Kate Ellenberg had to get back on side. Stretch pass attempt up the far side by Branyan to Hank Walker, deflected off the stick of Gorell back into the Mount Juliet zone. Now Kayla Ellenberg will bring it out. Ellenberg at center. Back into the Indy zone on the right wing side. Avoided a check. White circle shot stopped and coming up by Busby. Ellenberg danced his way past Branyan. Got to the right dot and fired a shot that Busby kept out of the net. .94 seconds left in the first game. Tied at 1. Draw is going to be to Busby's left. Draw to Busby's left. One by Mount Juliet. Shot attempt was blocked. Hank Walker with a puck. He'll clear it to center. It's on the far side. Trenton Gorell with it in the Mount Juliet zone. Passing across to the near side. Anthony Giampaolo. Ahead to Jordan Antart, tried to pass it off to Ellenberg. That was knocked away by Walker. Puck sent back into the Mount Juliet zone. Cleared out by Giampaolo. Here's Ellenberg at center. Leaving into the near side, Ethan Smith. Left wing side of the Indy zone. Drops it back. Jordan Antart, left circle shot. Stopped by Busby. And Ellenberg couldn't corral the rebound. Hank Walker will clear it out. Final minute of the first. Puck back in the Mount Juliet zone. Trickling into the left wing corner. And Aiden Gardner with an on-angle shot and to be turned away by Busby. Hank Walker keeps it into the blue line. Gets off a shot that goes over the net. Now another on-angle shot from Gardner just above the left wing corner. Hulsey had to turn that away too. Antar backhanding the puck ahead to Triplett. Parker Triplett sends it back into the Indy zone. It's intercepted. Clearing attempt hit the skate of Hank Walker. Stays in the zone. Puck sent back to the end boards by Triplett. Under 30 seconds left in the period. Walker at the end board. Stretch pass up the near side. Nick Kloss deflects it back into the Mount Juliet zone. Dallas Riddell trying to send it up the far boards to get it out. Held in Nick Onusadis, tried to send it to the front of the net. Went off the skates of Jackson Blevins. Then a one-timer try from Caleb Mills. They score! Caleb Mills with a one-timer try from the high slot that went over the net. And then from behind the net, Aiden Gardner with a wraparound at the left-hand side that goes in. The puck went off the glass, came back down. Gardner picked it up behind the net. Hulsey drifted to the right, then left the left-hand side of the net open, and the wraparound try from Gardner was successful, and it's 2-1 Indy with 10.8 seconds left in the first. Wow. What a weird go-ahead goal. But when Centennial won the Hine Cup 3 years ago, the winning goal from, I think it was Aiden Connect, was a shot that went over the USN net, hit the glass, came back down, hit the goalie in the back and went in. Puck deep in the Mount Juliet zone as time runs out in the first. With Indy in the lead, Cash Branyan opened the scoring for Indy, and then just 80 seconds later, Parker Triplett tied the game up for Mount Juliet, but then with 10 seconds left in the period, Aiden Gardner with a go-ahead goal, and Independence-Centennial lead Mount Juliet-Wilson Central-Lebanon 2-1 after one in the Henry Hine Cup final. I'll be back in a few seconds with the start of the second, but if you're listening on the YouTube podcast, we're going to go ahead and take you to the start of the second period. Ready to start the second period. Shepard Hulsey still in goal for Mount Juliet. David Busby still in goal for Indy for the second period. Mount Juliet will carry the puck my left to right. Indy from my right to left. Indy ahead 2-1 as we start in the middle frame. And they win the draw. Hank Walker dropping it back into his own zone. Cash Branyan with it. Brings it out to center. Makes his way to the near side. He's in the Mount Juliet zone on the left wing. Backhands it around to the far side. Now, puck cleared out. Here's Kate Ellenberg, left wing side of the Indy zone. Left circle shot. Missed the net to the left of Busby, who may have gotten a piece of it as it went by. Puck goes all the way back down into the Mount Juliet zone. Trenton Gorell grabs it. Passes up the near side, Jordan Antar. Antar back into the Indy zone on the right wing. Holds, takes a shot off of Busby's knees, popped up into the air. He tried to glove it out of the air. He couldn't catch it. And then he has to stretch out to his left to cover up as Cade Ellenberg was hovering around. 13-19 to go in the second. 2-1 Indy. Draw will be to the left of Busby. Won by Indy. Nick Kloss on the near side. Sending it up the near boards to center. Intercepted by Jackson Blevins. Sent back into the Indy zone, then quickly cleared out again. Carter Spencer will dump it back into the Indy zone from center. Busby out of his net. Nope, he decides not to play it. Tate Butcher will take it, send it around to the near side boards. Now Nick Kloss backs up behind his own net. Kloss firing it up the far boards out to center. Jackson Blevins taps it back in, but he had to let it go. He had Sheree Aurora offside. Puck out at center. Sent back into the Mount Juliet zone. Gardner with it. Flips it to the front of the net. Settled down by Nick Kloss. Settled down by Caleb Mills, and then he shoots it past the net to Hulsey's right. Puck in the right wing corner, Gardner. Now Nick Kloss has it knocked off his stick. Trying to clear it as Blevins. It hits Gardner and stays in. Gardner moving down the right wing, around the back of the net. Comes out to the left circle. Is it taken away by Aurora? Passed up the near side and out. It's back in the Indy zone. Kloss will beat Carter Spencer to it. As Carter Spencer falls over as Kloss brings the puck to center. Back up. Nick Anyusadis came off the bench. Actually, no, he was about to go on the bench, and then he just stopped inside the zone, and the puck is brought in to trigger the offside whistle. 11:56 to go in the second. 2-1 Indy. Again, at the end of this second period, both teams will head back into the dressing room, and we'll bring out the ice. We'll bring out the Zamboni for a resurfacing. Draws on the dot in front of the Indy bench. Won by Mount Juliet. Here's Trenton Gorell. Now Ethan Smith into the Indy zone. He's in the slot, a shot over the net. Puck on the far boards. Jordan Antar. Round the back of the net. Comes out to the near side. Turns and shoots. Turned away by Busby. Shot from the high slot. Puck on the far side. Antar grabs it. Round the back of the net again. It's Oscar Dubon trying to push him into the right wing corner boards. Here's Ellenberg with it now. Sending it back up the near side, Antar. Dropping it back down into the right wing corner. Ellenberg with a no-look backhanded pass to the slot attempt, or no-look backhanded pass attempt to the slot. Ethan Smith intercepted by Brannion, who's then pinned up against the near side boards by Ellenberg. Now Smith trying to pass the slot, but it got tied up in Antar's skates. Indy trying to clear on the near side. Gardner battling with Smith. Bryson Patton joins in. Gorell with it right point, trying to send it to the front of the net. Went off the stick of Dubon, came on goal. Busby stops and covers. 10:47 to go in the second. 2-1 Indy. Draw is going to be to the left of Busby. Won by Indy, puck cleared down ice. Dallas Riddell clearing it out of the Mount Juliet zone, picked up by Josh Boren, but he brings it back into the Mount Juliet zone with Lucas Brown trying to get out, so that's offside. Draw's going to be on the dot in front of the bleachers across from the Indy bench at center. Won by Mount Juliet, Jackson Blevins. Dumps it into the Indy zone. Tate Butcher will get to it at the end board, send it around to the far side. Brown trying to drop it over to Kloss. Shorey Aurora trying to send it to the front of the net, kicking it towards the blue. It was kicked towards the blue line, I think, by Lucas Brown, and then a shot from the blue line came in, had to be turned away by Busby. Puck out in front of the net. It was Dallas Riddell taking that shot. Now it's on the far side, cleared down ice by Lucas Brown. And it's going to slow to a stop before it gets to the Mount Juliet goal line, so no icing. Blevins pushes Oliver Weedman down, passes the puck across to the near side to no one. It's out at center, back in the Indy zone. Tate Butcher with it. Butcher flips it up the far side. Caleb Mills, right wing side of the Mount Juliet zone, drops it to the inboards, coming around to the left wing corner. Lucas Brown couldn't keep it on his stick. Antar. Puck comes out in front of the Mount Juliet net, had to be jabbed away by Shepard Hulsey. And the puck went off of Parker Triplett, kept in the zone by Lucas Pacholko. Now it's passed up the near side to center. Kate Ellenberg with space, right wing side of the Indy zone. Taking a shot, missed the net to the right of Busby. Held in by Antar on the far side. Puck jabbed off his stick, held into the left point by Giampaolo. Sent back down the wall, past Ellenberg. It's behind the net. Caleb Mills sending it around to the near side. Jordan Antar, right point. Across to the left point, Giampaolo. Giampaolo, a shot through traffic, just missed the net to the left of Busby. Trying to clear it out is Pacholko, but he can't. Here's Ellenberg moving back down the right wing, trying to get to the front of the net. And the shot stopped by Busby. I don't know what happened. Busby was flailing while trying to stand back up as Ellenberg came across the front of the net. He had a man on him. Now the puck out in front. Free the Smith, a shot over the net. Smith passing up to the left point. Giampaolo trying to pass it back down the left wing to Smith as it's stolen away and cleared out by Cash Brandon. Here's Gardner, Aiden Gardner, back in the Mount Juliet zone. On the left wing, a shot. Gloved and held onto by Hulsey as Gardner took the shot from the top of the left circle. 8:27 to go in the second, 2-1 Indy. Draw is going to be to Hulsey's right. One by Mount Juliet. They try and clear. Held in by Gardner. Drops it up to the left point. Oscar Dubon passing back down the left wing to Gardner. Gardner battling with Sheree Aurora. Keeps the puck on his stick. Gardner trying to get to the front of the net. Sends it past the net to Hulsey's right. Trying to get it down low to Bryson Patton. Here's Jackson Blevins. Banking it off the near boards. Held in Hank Walker. Had it jabbed off his stick by Aurora. Puck will be brought out to center by Carter Spencer. Spencer almost gave it away to Dubon. Spencer with it now right wing side of the Indy zone. Sends it towards the front of the net. And it is deflected away from the front of the net by Busby. Here's Cash Brandon at the end boards. Starts moving it slowly towards center. Passes up the near side to Patton, who was at the Mount Juliet blue line, but it misses him and goes for an icing. 7:43 left in the second. Still 2-1 Indy. Draw is to Busby's left. One by Mount Juliet. Kate Ellenberg shot, blocked by the skates of Bryson Patton. He gets it back, tries to send it to the front of the net off the stick of Antar and past the net to the left of Busby. Puck held in at the left point by Giampaolo. Here's Antar near the left wing corner. Trying to center it to the slot for Ellenberg. It went off an Indy stick to the near side. Lucas Brown sending it back around to the far side. Antar's going to hold it in. Backhanded up to the left point. Giampaolo. Giampaolo shot. Missed the net to the right of Busby. Ethan Smith on the near side. Passing it towards the front of the net. And trying to stub it in on the left-hand side is Antar, but Busby has it behind him. They blow the whistle. This top line for Mount Juliet is scary, man. Shots on goal favor Mount Juliet 12-9, and it's because of this top line. Parker Triplett has the one Mount Juliet goal, but this top line is making some noise. Draw will be to Busby's left again. One by the Bears. Trenton Gurrell, right point. Passing to the left point. Giampaolo back across right circle. A shot from Ellenberg. Stop. Rebound score. Ethan Smith. Busby made the save. The puck came up the slot to Smith. who fires it into the back of the net. The game is tied at 2 with 6:58 to go in the second. So just past the halfway point of regulation, Mount Juliet back on level terms. You know, you can't play that song if you don't start it right at, I like it, I love it, I want some more of it. You can't start that song right at the beginning after a goal. Caleb Mills brings the puck into the Mount Juliet zone and fires it into the netting above the glass, trying to fire it around the wall from the near side. They're saying it went off a Mount Juliet stick because they're going to drop it to the right of Hulsey. Okay, never mind. Draw one by Mount Juliet. Trenton Gorell sending it up the near side and out to center. Oscar Dubon settles it down. Drops it back into his own zone for Branyan. Branyan flipping it through the air to center. Gorell had to go off his stick and end up in the Mount Juliet end. He catches up to it. Carries it around to the far side. Sends it up the far side off the stick of Ellenberg. It's still in the Mount Juliet zone. Antar trying to clear. Held in at the right point by Branyan. Cross corner dump into the left wing side. Now it's cleared out on the near side by Giampaolo. Here's Ethan Smith back into the Indy zone. And the slot is shot blocked away by Busby. Puck out on the far boards. Smith. Left wing corner. Comes out in front, his shot stopped by Busby, who's got it covered. He suddenly was free to go to the front of the net. Busby laying out to make the stop and then the cover. 6:06 to go in the second. Game tied at 2. Draw is going to be to the right of Busby. One by Mount Juliet. Jackson Blevins trying to send it to the front of the net from the center point. That's blocked by Patton. Puck held in the zone. Parker triplet shot in the high slot blocked. So here's Blevins up. Couldn't keep it on his stick on the right wing side. Brought out to center by Nick Kloss. Kloss. Now Hank Walker, left wing side of the Mount Juliet zone. Tried to pass the slot. Broken up by Winston Hudson. Walker with a puck still. Round the back of the net. He's in the right wing corner. Now on the far side. Carter Spencer with a puck. He'll bring it to center. Cross the red line. Trying to send it into the Indy zone. Sent out immediately. Cleared out immediately by Bryson Patton. Winston Hudson trying to dump it back into the Indy zone. He dumped it to where that glass curves to the left of the Mount Juliet bench. So out of play. 5:28 left in the second. Game still tied at 2. Draw on the dot in front of the Mount Juliet bench. One by the Bears. Puck in the Indy zone. It's on the far side. Kate Ellenberg sending it around to the back of the net. Nick Kloss gets to it. Sending it up the far side, held in Giampaolo at the left point. Here is Ellenberg trying to pass the slot. Smith, Antar with the puck shot, missed the net. To the right of Busby from the left edge of the slot. Here's Antar. Passing it up to the right point in Gorell. Across to the top of the left circle, Giampaolo a shot, just missed the net to the right of Busby, who had drifted out to the point where it went through his legs. Patton flicking it around to the far side, and Tate Butcher tried the stretch pass to Walker, hanging out at the Mount Juliet blue line on the near side, and it went all the way for an icing. 4:43 left in the second. The game is tied at 2. Draw is going to be to Busby's right. One by Indy. They're trying to get it out of the zone. Held in Jackson Blevins at the left point. Carter Spencer, left edge of the slot. A shot turned away by Busby. Here's Spencer again, left circle, shooting it past the Net to the right of Busby. Cleared out up the near side by Caleb Mills. Gardner with it at center for Indy. Brings it back into the Mount Juliet zone on the left wing side. Trying to send it towards the slot. Didn't get a lot of wood on it, so it's taken back by Mount Juliet. Out at center, Carter Spencer. Dumps it back into the Indy zone. Puck will be at the inboards. Oscar Dubon flipping it around to the far side. And it's cleared out. Sent right back in by Blevins. Cash Brannion.
Juliet-Wilson, Central-Lebanon goals.
Wow, we're just now announcing the goal that was like 3 minutes ago. Here's Cash Brannion, left wing side of the Mount Juliet zone. Trying to get to the front of the net. Hay was triple teamed to the puck, taken off him and cleared. Or it was over 2 minutes ago. Puck back in the Indy zone. Knocked away from Jordan Antar by Oscar Dubon, but Antar has it now on the right wing, trying to pass the slot. Ellenberg get it taken off his stick. Now Dubon on the near side. Back through center, into the Mount Juliet zone on the left wing. Cannot get around Gurrell. Gurrell took the puck off him in the left wing corner. Antar. Ahead to Ellenberg, who brings it to center. Ellenberg. Try to go back into the Indy zone of the puck, taken away by Aiden Gardner. Ethan Smith. Puck coming across to the far side. Hank Walker, right wing side of the Mount Juliet zone. Round the back of the net. Sends it up to the left point and Dubon. Dubon with a shot. I think it may have hit Gurrell. Josh Bourne jumped up in the air to try and block it. Now the puck will be brought to center again by Mount Juliet. Antar shoots it on goal from the red line. Stopped and covered up by Busby. 2:25 left in the second. Game tied at 2 again. Once the second period is over, the two teams will leave the ice for a resurfacing. Draw will be to Busby's right. One by Mount Juliet, a one-timer. Top of the left circle, and Ellenberg just missed the net to Busby's left. Nick Kloss flipping it through the air on the far side and out. Kloss now with a puck. Chips it back into the Mount Juliet zone. Catches up to it on the right wing side. Odd angle shot off the left leg pad of Hulsey, who has not had to do much in this second period. Here's Walker coming up the far side, passing up to the right point. And Lucas Brown passing back down the right wing to Kloss, who can't hang on to the puck. Dallas Riddell trying to take it away from him and clear it out. It's coming to the slot. Jackson Blevins can't clear. Aurora couldn't take it out. Here's Lucas Brown, a one-timer in the slot. Blocked as he got that pass from Patton. Here's Winston Hudson. Back into the Indy zone on the right wing side. Passing it to the inboards and Ellenberg. Trying to put it in front for Hudson, and his one-timer went off the right leg pad of Busby and then went past the net to his right. Hank Walker at center. Back into the Mount Juliet zone. Around Blevins. In front of shot. Stopped. And then the rebound from Kloss backhanded past the net to Hulsey's right. Indy's best chance in a long time. Puck brought back out to center by Mount Juliet. It's on the near side. Drifts back into the Indy zone. Picked up by Walker. Passing back up the far side. Minute left in the period. Puck back in the Mount Juliet zone. Cleared out by Giampaolo. Now Brannion back in the Mount Juliet zone on the left wing side. Trying to spin around, but he couldn't keep the puck on his stick. And it's cleared down ice. It's actually on goal from Jackson Blevins. So a save having to be made by Busby. Puck sent back up the near side. Here is Brannion. Stepping back into the Mount Juliet zone. Drops it back to center for Tate Butcher, who dumps it back into the Mount Juliet end, but right to Trenton Gurrell trying to clear. He then drops it back down into the right wing corner. Less than 30 seconds left in the period. Jordan Antar. Passing to the near side, Ethan Smith. Right wing side of the Indy zone. Smith has the puck stolen from him by Aiden Gardner, who clears. Oliver Weedman. Now Gardner. Passing it back to the middle of the ice. Caleb Mills will try and dump it back into the Mount Juliet zone. That was blocked by Antar, sent the other way, and time runs out on the second as both teams now leave the ice for the resurfacing. Ethan Smith with the only goal of this second period. And the Henry Hine Cup final is tied at 2 after 2. The goals so far in this one. Cash Brandon had the first goal of the game for Indy. Then it was tied up just 80 seconds later in the first by Parker Triplett. And then with 10.8 seconds left in the first, Aiden Gardner gave Indy the lead before Ethan Smith tied the game up just past the halfway point of regulation here in the second. So the Henry Hine Cup final between Mount Juliet-Wilson, Central-Lebanon, and Independence-Centennial is tied at 2 after 2 periods. So we're going to take a break here. We're going to turn the mic down. And take care of some stuff. So if you're listening live, I'll be back when the third period is ready to start. But if you're listening in the YouTube podcast, we're going to go ahead and take you to the start of the third period. Again, the Henry Hine Cup final tied at 2 between Mount Juliet-Wilson, Central-Lebanon, and Independence-Centennial after 2 periods. Zamboni is come and gone, and we're ready to start the third period. David Busby still in goal for Independence-Centennial. Shepard Elsey still in goal for Mount Juliet-Wilson, Central-Lebanon for this third period. Indy will carry the puck by left to right. Mount Juliet from my right to left. And we are still tied. At the end of this third, we will go to a 14-minute 5-on-5 sudden death overtime. As third period is underway, Mount Juliet win the draw. Puck dumped into the Indy zone down the near side, cleared out quickly. It's back on the Mount Juliet end. Trenton Gorell catches up to it. Trying to send it around to the near side boards. Sent to the end boards by Aiden Gardner. Slapped around to the far side by Anthony Gempalo. Carried out to center by Ethan Smith. Smith, right wing side of the Indy zone. Puck got away from him as he was trying to move around Oscar Dubon. Now he's in the right wing corner with it. Goes around the back of the net. Puck knocked off his stick by Cash Branion. Knocked into the left wing corner boards. Puck held into the left point by Smith. Sent down the left wing. Ellenberg tied up. Kate Ellenberg tied up with Oscar Dubon. That allows Caleb Mills to clear. It'll be an icing. 13-14 to go in regulation. Game tied at 2. If Mount Juliet win this game, the if necessary game will be on Wednesday at 5:30 on Rink A at Centennial. If Indy win it, they're going home in the Hine Cup. Draws to the right of Busby. Indy win it, bring it out to center. It's drifting down the right wing side of the Mount Juliet zone, picked up by Dallas Riddell. Tried to clear it out of the far side. Tate Butcher knocked it down. Couldn't hang on to the puck. Carter Spencer clears from his own left point. Nick Kloss with it inside his own zone. Drops it back for Butcher. Butcher leaves it for Hank Walker. Walker brings it to center. Far side, dumps it into the Mount Juliet zone from the blue line. Puck coming around to the right wing corner. Here's Parker Triplett. Passing it off Jackson Blevins. Stretch pass to the red line at center. Carter Spencer shoots it on goal from just inside the blue line as it turned away by Busby. Puck in the left wing corner. Bryson Patton backhanding it around to the far side. Here is Butcher trying to clear. Held into the right point by Gorell. Sent back down the right wing boards. Butcher dropped his stick. And that allows a shot from Carter Spencer. Move to the right dot and fire a shot that misses the net to Busby's left. Puck back in the Mount Juliet zone coming towards the front of the net. Hulsey will cover it. Even though the only Indy player in his vicinity was Nick Onyesadis, and he was surrounded by like 3 Mount Juliet players. 11:56 left in regulation, and the Hine Cup final is still tied at 2. If Mount Juliet win, they will be the home team on Wednesday because they won the previous game. Well, this game. Draw is to the left of Hulsey. Won by Mount Juliet. Fired around the boards by Anthony Gempalo. Went way up high on the glass as it exited the Mount Juliet zone. Goes all the way for an icing. Draw is going to be to Hulsey's right this time. Draw one by Mount Juliet, cleared by Trenton Gorell. It's in the Indy zone down the right wing side. Kate Ellenberg's going to get to it, pushes the puck in front. Busby stops it with his stick and covers as Ethan Smith was arriving. Drawby to Busby's left. One by Indy. Oscar Dubon pushed into the inboards. Cash Branyan passing the puck back across to Dubon. Dubon out to center. Brings it over the red line. Back into the Mount Juliet zone. Leaves it at the left point for Lucas Brown. Trying to send it to the front of the net. And Caleb Mills went there to try and get a redirect. It misses him and goes past the net to the left of Hulsey. Kate Ellenberg crossing the red line. Dumping the puck back into the Indy zone. Dubon slaps it around the boards to the far side. Goes off the stick of Brown. Picked up by Aiden Gardner. Left wing side of the Mount Juliet zone with a shot. Missed the net to the right of Hulsey. Gardner puts it out in front, flicked away by Antar. And here is Kate Ellenberg dumping it back into the Indy zone from just behind the red line. Picked up by Dubon. Left for Lucas Brown. Brown banking it off the near boards to Cash Branyan, who sweeps it out. Here is Jackson Blevins. Ahead to Jordan Antar, who deflects it back into the Indy zone. Branyan going back to center. Back into the Mount Juliet zone on the right wing. Branyan moving to the slot. Backhanding it towards the front of the net. Not very hard. Cleared away. The shot score! Was cleared away by Dallas Redea, but picked up on the far side by Hank Walker, who fires it into the roof of the net from along the boards, just above the left wing corner, and Indy have the lead back. It's 3-2 Eagles with 10-10 left in regulation. Can they hang on from here against that noisy top Mount Juliet line? Draw one by Indy. Puck comes all the way down to their goal, so Busby has to turn it away. Trying to clear it out on the far side. Held in Jackson Blevins. Pass to the slot. Winston Hudson, a shot blocked by Tate Butcher. And his back turned to Hudson. Puck still on the near boards. Cleared out. Blevins with it at center. Here's Oliver Weedman bringing it back into the Mount Juliet zone. Runs into Giampaolo and loses the puck. Winston Hudson sending it up the far boards and out. Butcher at center. Passing it to the near side, Nick Kloss. Dumps it back into the Mount Juliet zone. It was an icing. It was kind of a delayed icing call. The linesman on the near side looking across to the far side, who said, yeah, it was an icing. 9:21 left in regulation, 3-2 Indy. If they hold on and win this, I've already told past President John Williams and Vice President Rich Mellon, if they hold on and win this by a goal, my MVP vote goes to David Busby. Draws to his right. Puck in the left wing corner, Jordan Antar. Trying to shake off Cash Branyan. Puck drifting around on the far side. He's pulled down behind the net for what's going to be the first penalty of the game. Brought down behind the net by Caleb Mills. We were penalty free until now. Interference, the call against Mills. So Mount Juliet get the very first power play of the game. Trailing 3-2 with 9:04 left in regulation. And the last thing Indy wanted to do is get a penalty with this dangerous top line on the ice for the whole thing. Draw will be to Busby's left. Jordan Antar will let Trenton Gorell take the face off. One by Indy. Puck fired around the boards to the near side and out to center. It's rolling on its edge back into the Mount Juliet zone. Jackson Blevins will beat Hank Walker to it. Now Walker with it on the far side. Trying to back in it to the near side, flicked out by Jordan Antar. It's back in the Indy zone. In possession of the Eagles, though, and Nick Kloss will fire it to the other end of the ice. On goal, Busby stops it, and it nearly got too far away from him. He pulled it back in and covers as Aiden Gardner was going to go to the net hunting for a loose puck. Draw be to the right of Hulsey. Won by Indy. Shot from Kloss near the left point, blocked. He gets it back on the left wing side. Stops above the left wing corner. Trying to pass across, went off the stick of Blevins across to the near side. Puck back in the Indy zone. Tate Butcher with it. And he'll flip it through the air, and it just went under one of the rafter beams and lands back at the very end of the other end of the ice in play. Puck brought back into the Indy zone on the right wing side by Ellenberg, trying to pass it up to the top of the right circle, and Blevins puck out at center. Less than a minute left of the power play. Here's Walker, left wing side of the Mount Juliet's on a shot, turned away by Hulsey. Now Ellenberg on the near side at center. Puck jabbed off his stick, poked off his stick by Cash Branyan, sent the other way. Now Gardner back in the Mount Juliet zone, fakes a slap shot. Puck knocked off his stick by Antar, who has it at center. Antar back into the Indy zone, leaves it for Ellenberg. Ellenberg shot to the top of the left circle, slowed up by the stick of Aiden Gardner, allowing David Busby to catch it and hang on for the whistle. 29 seconds left of the power play, 7:33 to go in regulation, still 3-2, Independence-Centennial. Draws to Busby's right. Won by Mount Juliet. Trenton Gorell, left point. Taking a shot. Stopped it onto by Busby. Off his left leg pad and into his glove. .20 left in the man advantage for Mount Juliet. Draw to Busby's right again. Won by Indy. They try and clear. Held in by Gorell at the left point. Off his skate. Patton trying to clear it out. Now here's Oscar Dubon. He'll clear it out. Send it the other way. It's back in the Mount Juliet zone behind the net. Picked up by Blevins. Penalty time against Indy is up. They're back at even strength. Mills will join the play. Blevins, left wing side. Pass across off the stick of Winston Hudson. And now back the other way goes Aiden Gardner. Gardner, left wing side of the Mount Juliet zone. Leaves it. Patton a shot. Didn't get through. It was blocked. Clearing attempt held into the blue line by Dubon. His shot hit the skates of Sheree Aurora. Carried back to center by Trenton Gorell. He'll dump it into the Indy zone deep. Dubon sending it up the near side boards. Bryson Patton will clear. No icing. It's waved off. Jordan Antar to his own inboards, picks it up. Backhands it out to center to Ethan Smith, who fell over an Indy player's stick, but no arm in the air. Here's Nick Kloss, right wing side of the Mount Juliet zone, gets knocked off the puck by Jackson Blevins, but it still comes on goal, and Shepard Hulsey covers. 6:11 left in regulation. 3-2 Indy in the Hine Cup final. Draw is going to be to the left of Shepard Hulsey. Won by Mount Juliet. Puck slapped around the boards to the far side by Anthony Giampaolo. Now Cade Ellenberg, right wing side of the Indy zone. Pass across, Jordan Antar, left circle, a shot. Blocked by Nick Kloss. Popped up in the air, lands on the dot. Smith, as Antar and Butcher are tied up and fall down. Puck passed out to the blue line, just kept alive by Dallas Riddell. Sent back down into the right wing corner. Butcher sending it around to the near side. Giampaolo holds it in at the left point. Sends it back down deep. Ellenberg behind the net, backhands it out in front. It's drifting up the slot. Hank Walker with it for Indy. Passes to the far side. And Kloss who brings it out to center. Kloss. Back into the Mount Juliet zone. Fires it over the net from the left point. Here's Ellenberg. Backhanding it to center. Adell. Dallas Riddell, left wing side of the Indy zone. Drops it back to Jordan Antar, whose shot was blocked by the stick of Gardner, who put it right down. Now it's back in the Mount Juliet zone on the left wing side. Hank Walker, bottom of the circle, trying to put it in front for Gardner. That was broken up by Giampaolo. Now Ethan Smith will bring the puck out to center. Smith to Antar. Oh, and Smith went well over the Indy blue line before Antar brought the puck in. Offside, 4:54 left in regulation. Still 3-2 Indy. Draw on the dot in front of the bleachers across from the Indy bench at center. Won by Indy. Lucas Brown shooting it on goal from center. Stopped and covered up by Hulsey. Draw to the left of Hulsey. Won by Indy and a shot from Cash. Brandon took a deflection and just went past the net to Hulsey's left. Puck in the right wing corner. Gardner pushed into the boards. And the puck. Oh, did the puck go under the boards? Those are the Zamboni doors. The puck went under the boards and out. So the puck goes under the boards and out. And they had to get a new puck. Draw's going to be to Hulsey's left. Won by Mount Juliet. Jackson Blevins clearing it out to center on the near side. Gardner pushed into the boards by Aurora. Bryson Patton trying to fire the puck back into the Mount Juliet zone. It hits Blevins right at the blue line. Aurora crosses the red line, dumps it back into the Indy zone, but he got taken down at center. There's going to be another penalty against Indy. An elbowing call. And it's going to be against Aiden Gardner. So Mount Juliet back to the power play, still trailing 3-2 with 4:10 left in regulation. Draw is going to be to the right of Busby. Surprised Mount Juliet aren't using their timeout here. Draw one by Mount Juliet. Kate Ellenberg, left point, trying to send it down the left wing. Blocked by the stick of Kayla Mills, who clears it out, pokes it out to center. Here's Harrington Walker, Hank Walker, down the Mount Juliet side in front of shot. Score! Walker got to the front of the net and flipped it. Shot it through Hulsey into the back of the net for his second goal of the game. And period. A shorty for Indy right away. And it's 4-2 with 3:59 left in regulation and 1:50 left in the power play for Mount Juliet. Ellenberg was trying to pass it down the left wing side from the left point. Mills blocked it with his stick, poked it out to center, and Walker did the rest from there. Draw one by Mount Juliet. Jordan Antar, left wing side of the Indy zone, pushed into the boards. Puck kept alive at the right point. Here's Jordan Antar. High slot, a shot. Stopped and covered up by Busby. Draw is to Busby's right. Won by Mount Juliet. Kate Ellenberg passing to the right point. Trenton Gorell with a shot. Would have missed the net to Busby's left, but he scoops it up off the ice with his glove and hangs on for the whistle. 85 seconds left in the power play. 3:35 left in regulation. 4-2 Indy. Mount Juliet are bringing Shepard Holsey to the bench for the extra attacker. The net is empty for the Bears now. Draws to Busby's left. Draw one by Mount Juliet. Jackson Blevins, right point, passing across to the left point. Kate Ellenberg with a shot. Stopped and held on to by Busby. Draws to Busby's right, won by Mount Juliet. But Ethan Smith fumbles the puck. Walker brings it to center, and he fires it into the empty net from just behind the red line to blue line to complete his hat trick. He took a shot that went off the inside of the left-hand post and in. Another shorty for Indy. It's 5-2 with 3:18 left in regulation and 69 seconds left in the power play. And that should pretty much be it. Here's Jordan Antar, left wing side of the Indy zone, and then a shot stopped by Busby. It popped up off his right shoulder, and I thought it was going to go in the net, but it did not. Puck back in front for Antar. Another shot turned away by Holsey. 45 seconds left in the man advantage for Mount Juliet. Nick Kloss out at center on the far side, left wing side of the Mount Juliet zone. Could not get around Giampaolo. Kloss with a puck, backhanding it across the front of the net for the left circle. Bryson Patton, a shot turned away by Holsey. Now the puck back in the Indy zone. 20 seconds left in the power play for Mount Juliet. It's on the far side. Antar passing across to Giampaolo, moving down the left wing. Top of the left circle, shot off the right leg pad of Busby. Puck out in front. Busby down, but it's taken away and cleared by Kloss. Penalty time against Indy is up. They're back at even strength. And now Brannion battling with Giampaolo at the near side boards. And the officials having to jump in. And Brannion doesn't want to do anything dumb. Well, they're both seniors. He and Giampaolo are both seniors. You don't want to do anything up. Oh, head contact, 2 and 10 against Brannion. So Mount Juliet to be on the power play again. And once again, they are bringing Holsey to the bench for the extra attacker. 2:01 left in regulation, 5-2 Indy. Mount Juliet are going to have to win the draw, bring the puck into the Indy zone, and score quick. You don't want to do anything stupid if you're a senior, because if this is your last game and you do something to get suspended, since you can't serve it, it turns into a fine of $100 per game, and now Mount Juliet have called their timeout. I don't know why they didn't do that a few minutes ago when they were only down a goal. Now they're down 3. They're pretty much done at this point. So the Hine Cup will be won by Indy unless Mount Juliet mount a furious comeback here. So Indy, this will be their third Hine Cup title, tying them with Franklin for most all time. It'll be the second Hine Cup title for Centennial. Again, unless Mount Juliet get off a furious comeback here. Draw's going to be to the right of Busby. Again, the net is empty for the Bears. Won by Mount Juliet. Jackson Blevins across to the right point. Kate Ellenberg. Ellenberg moving down the right wing. Ellenberg avoiding one defender, getting off a shot off the right leg pad. Busby rebound, score! Giampaolo from below the left faceoff dot. So Mount Juliet convert the power play. They convert it within 15 seconds. It's now 5-3 Indy with 1:46 left in regulation. Shepard Hulsey back in goal. Indy win the draw, send it towards the Mount Juliet blue line. Sent back the other way by Giampaolo. It's back in the Indy zone. Oscar Dubon. Backhanding it ahead to Caleb Mills. Now here's Aiden Gardner, right wing side of the Mount Juliet zone. Cash Brandon still in the box because he's serving a 2 and a 10 for head contact. Nick Kloss firing it back into the Mount Juliet zone. Giampaolo knocked it down with a stick right at his own blue line, so that killed any icing. Here's Ellenberg with a puck. Shepard Hulsey slowly skating towards the Mount Juliet bench. Now he's heading back there. Shot from Ellenberg on the right wing side of the Indy zone off the stick of Oscar Dubon into the netting above the glass. 69 seconds left in regulation. 5-3 Indy. Draw is going to be to Busby's left. Draw one by Mount Juliet. Giampaolo left point, right point, across to the left point. Ellenberg dumps it down the wall. Puck behind the net. Minute left in regulation. Puck in the right wing corner. Here's a one-timer from Ethan Smith, turned away by Busby. Puck in the right wing corner again. Battle for the puck. Big battle in that right wing corner, trying to tie it up. Smith comes out with it. Round the back of the net, out to the left wing side. And it's taken away and cleared by Indy past the net. The empty net to its right for an icing. 35.6 seconds left in regulation. 5-3 Indy. Trying to hang on here and win the Hine Cup. Draws to Busby's right. Won by Mount Juliet. Kate Ellenberg shot. Top of the left circle, gloved and held on to by Busby. And he and Antar give each other a little hug. That's nice. Draw me to Busby's right again. Anthony Giampaolo skating back to the Mount Juliet bench. Is that for the last time in his G-Nash career? Draw one by Mount Juliet, but taken away by Indy. Here's Bryson Patton firing it just past the empty net to its right for another icing. Less than 30 seconds left as Patton and Triplet. And then Jacob Turner pushes Patton down and Walker comes in. And Triplet will be sent to the box. Mount Juliet going to get their first penalties the whole game. Triplet and Turner will be sent to the box. And they're going to send Patton in there as well. So this should be a power play for Indy since Mount Juliet have one more man in the box. So the extra penalty will be against Mount Juliet. That means the draw is in their zone. Jacob Turner giving a roughing minor. Parker Triplett called for roughing. So I'm guessing that Patton will get called for roughing too. Draw will be to the left of Hulsey. There's still one of the referees still over at the scorekeeper box sorting out the penalties. Triplett also got a 10-minute misconduct. No, wait. Okay, so Indy on the power play. 25.2 seconds left in regulation. They're up 5-3. Draw to the left of Hulsey, won by Indy, and shot past the net to his right by Aiden Gardner. Puck out at center. Brought all the way back into the Indy zone by Nick Kloss behind his own net. And he's going to hold. And time will run out, and Independence-Centennial are the 2026 Henry Hine Cup winners as they beat Mount Juliet-Wilson Central-Lebanon 5-3. It's the third Hine Cup for Independence, tying them with Franklin for most all time, and the second Hine Cup for Centennial. Hank Walker with the game-winning goal. And Independence-Centennial are the 2025-26 Henry Hine Cup winners. So one trophy will be carried out of this building tonight. And now we wait to see if the other one will be carried out. Who's the MVP, by the way? David Busby had the strongest case after 2 periods because he was so effective against that top Mount Juliet line. But then Hank Walker has a hat trick here in the third. That happened a couple years ago in 2024 when the Rampage beat Brentwood 4-0. Alec Dawes had like a 37 save shutout, but Justin Dickinson had a hat trick, including 2 goals in the third, so they shared the MVP. And now Kevin Hagan.
We have 2 awards to present tonight. First, the Most Valuable Player Award.
So the MVP up first.
Also known as the
Sandy Chadwick MVP, named for the former GNAS treasurer. All the Independence players are taking off their Centennial sweaters and putting on their Indy sweaters. Hank Walker is the 2026 Henry Hine Cup final MVP, and I can't really argue with that. David Busby had the strongest argument, but then Walker with 3 goals here in the third, including the game winner. He had 3 in a row. He scored the goal that made it 3-2, then 4-2, and then the empty netter that made it 5-2. He scored the last 3. And now asking for a round of applause for the runners-up, Mount Juliet. They got all the way here. They were dropped into the losers bracket in the first round after losing to JP2. Got all the way to the final, but couldn't muster enough to force one more game. Mark Lane, in his first season back as a GNASH head coach, winning trophies. He won, and when he coached Centennial from 2007 through 2013, he won 2 GNASH Cups. In 2009 via the old GNASH Cup tournament, and the 2012-13 G-Nash Cup as regular season champs. He is the only head coach in G-Nash history to win multiple G-Nash Cups under multiple stipulations, as the Hine Cup is now in the hands of the Indy-Centennial players, and they all crowd around it and celebrate. And now Mount Juliet will leave the ice as the celebration is on for Independence-Centennial, the 2025-26 Henry Hine Cup winners. Hold on, folks. I'm typing out these scores. Independence, the last time they won the Hine Cup in 2021, they were co-oping with Spring Hill, and of course it was much more dramatic than this, beating Father Ryan in overtime of the, if necessary, championship game. It was tight at intermission following the second period, but they went on to win it in this third. Hank Walker scoring 3 goals in this third to win the Hine Cup for Independence-Centennial. So the goal scorers in this one for Mount Juliet, Parker Triplett, Ethan Smith, and Anthony Giampalos were the goals. For Indy Centennial, a hat trick for Hank Walker, and the other goals came from Aiden Gardner and Cash Brannion. And the players, the departing seniors for both teams, first for Mount Juliet, Jackson Blevins. It's a big loss on defense. Parker Triplett, that's also a big loss on defense. Trenton Gorell, Jordan Antar, it's a very big loss. Jacob Turner, Jason Tippins, Alex Alsaker, and Anthony Giampalo. Giampalo's a big loss as well. These guys were freshmen when Mount Juliet Green Hill Lebanon lost to Ravenwood in overtime of the Preds Cup final in 2023. And now those guys exit after losing another final. Meanwhile, Indy will be saying goodbye to Oscar Dubon, Bryson Patton, George Logazar, Aiden Gardner, Nick Anyasadis, Nick Kloss, and Cash Brannion. Gardner's a pretty big loss. Kloss is a pretty big loss. I wonder if they might have to bring in a third co-op partner for next year. We'll see. But Independence-Centennial, congratulations to them and head coach Mark Lane. They are the 2026 Henry Hine Cup winners as they defeat Mount Juliet-Wilson Central-Lebanon 5-3. Want to give an on-air shout-out to Shannon and Scott Gardner, the parents of Aiden Gardner. They paid $5 for this on-air shout-out, plus they're getting this game as a downloadable MP3 at no extra charge. They sent in $25 to our Buy Me a Coffee page. Scott Gardner was not just an OG Centennial player, he was an OG G-Nasher. He played in G-Nash in its very first season in 1999-2000, was a part of the Centennial team that won the first 2 G-Nash Cups in 2000-2001, and I think, which means he was also a part of the Centennial team that was the first G-Nash team to win the Predators Cup in 2001. They went to the very first Preds Cup final in 2000, lost to the Memphis Metro Warriors, then came back the following year and won it. Calvin Gardner was a goalie for Centennial for a season, and then he left to go play juniors, but Aiden Gardner finishing his G-Nash career as a Henry Hine Cup winner, and he was also, I think he was also on the Hine Cup team 3 years ago when Centennial won as a Scholastic team. So, yeah, shout out to them. And thanks for your support. And congratulations to Aiden on his GNASH career, and good luck to him and Calvin going forward. All right. That is it for the 2026 Henry Hine Cup final. Independence-Centennial beat Mount Juliet-Wilson Central-Lebanon 5-3. They're taking the trophy home. Coming up next at 8:05, pregame coverage for the Predators Cup. Montgomery Bell against Nolensville. Will Nolensville be carrying home the trophy tonight, or will MBA force Wednesday's if necessary game? Again, pregame for that coming up in 10 minutes. Congratulations to Indy Centennial, the 2026 Henry Hine Cup winners.